You're listening to the Deep Purple Podcast, a fan podcast about one of the most legendary bands of all time, Deep Purple. We take a look at the music, history, and people behind the band Deep Purple and beyond. Welcome to the Deep Purple Podcast, the first and only podcast devoted to one of the greatest bands in rock history, Deep Purple. Today's episode is episode number 25, Ian Gillan, Cherkazoo and Other Stories, Part 2. And coming to you from the finally fall suburbs of Chicago, I'm your host, Nathan Beaudry.
And coming to you from the state of Rhode Island and Providence Plantations, your co-host, John Matola.
All right. How you doing? The full name of Rhode Island. That's a big thrill for everyone in Rhode Island. It's the smallest state with the largest name.
Yeah, and I lost all my other crazy Rhode Island facts, so I went with that one today. But yeah, so yeah, it's all good.
You haven't done the state bird, the state flower. I don't know what the state flower is. I do know the state bird.
Yeah,
because it's got the name of the state in it, so it's a little easy. They make it easy on you.
Actually, yeah, for a minute I'm like, what is it? And then you just basically gave me the hint. So
yeah, we don't want. Where's a teaser for? You have to tune in next week. We're not going to give it away right now.
You know, or you could just Google it like the rest of the earth. You know,
don't tell them.
Oh, but yeah, it's very fallish here too. I was like, I'm wearing sweatshirt today, so
I was until I got too hot right before we started recording, so I took it off. Good thing, rather than having to suffer through the whole episode and trying to get it off over my headphones. All right, so if you want to keep up to date on the show, you can subscribe in Apple Podcasts or your preferred podcatcher. You can subscribe on YouTube. Click on the bell for notifications. We're on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook. All that information, along with our extensive show notes, is at deeppurplepodcast.com. Feel free to contact us via Twitter, Facebook, email, Instagram, smoke signal, however you want to get to us. Please let us know your thoughts on the band and the show. And if you like the show, if we give you some value, give us some value back. Become a patron on Patreon for as little as $1 a month. And to help new people discover the show, you can give us a 5-star rating and review on Apple Podcasts. Always looking for new reviews. So please let us know what you think of the show. We've gotten some great ones in the past. And with that, a thank you to all of our patrons. We got Clay Wambacher and Steve Seaborg of alltheworldsofstage.net at the $5 tier. Peter Gardeau, who you may be meeting soon, at the $3 tier. L's Murders and Spacey Noodles at the $1 tier. So when this episode comes out, you will have already seen Deep Purple.
If our friend Peter does get in touch with me.
Yes. You're waiting to hear from him, so he won't hear this, so until after the show. So yeah, so
afterwards, damn it, I should have gotten in touch with him.
So Peter has supposedly has an extra ticket for John, which is great. I'm not lucking out. No one in the Chicago area is like, hey Nate, I got an extra ticket for you. So which is fine. I haven't the last 2 concerts I tried to see, I was not able to see because of emergency things popping up. So I'm hoping nothing happens, because I've had a really bad track record in the Chicago area. So hopefully nobody gets sick or dies right before the Deep Purple show.
Well, I think that, I mean, even though it's too late to mention it now, though we should have mentioned it earlier, that when is the show that you're going to?
So you are going to the October 9th show, correct? At Mohegan Sun?
Yes, it'll be October 9th, yeah.
And I'm going to see them October 18th at the Rosemont Theater in Rosemont, Illinois, which is right by O'Hare Airport.
So, well, actually, then, by then, like, listeners should be... I would have already gone, but you wouldn't, right?
Correct. So on the next episode, we're going to record the day before you go. And the episode after that, you're going to give your notes from the field on the show. And then the episode after that, I'll give them. But when these air, they'll probably be a few weeks after we go see them.
All right. So what I think we should do is, like, anybody that's listening to this one, get in touch with Nate, because he's in charge with all the social media stuff. And, like, anybody in the Chicago area, like, you know, he's going to be there. Like, meet him. Say
yeah,
hi.
come meet me.
And I think that since this will already be here, hopefully Nate will have tweeted out that I will be at Mohegan Sun, and maybe some people recognize me and say hi, which would be cool, because I'll probably be going alone.
I did tweet out that you were going. I'm also going alone. My wife was very nice and offered to come, but I was like, no, I'm not going to do that to you. Not only the tickets are not cheap, so doubling the tickets and then getting a babysitter for something that she'll probably have very little interest in is not not really but it's nice of her to offer. And I know she would come, and I know she would be a good sport about it, but I also know she would not be that into it either.
Well, you got a fantastic lady there, Nate. So
She's a fantastic lady. Speaking of fantastic ladies, we've also got some fantastic men in the Deep Dive Podcast Network. We've got Rye at Sabbath Bloody Podcast, The Simple Man at Skinner Reconsidered, and Terry T-Bone Mathley at T-Bone's Prime Cuts. Check out all of their great stuff. And speaking of Skinner Reconsidered, I haven't told you this, and since you're not on social media, you probably missed it, but I hosted the most recent episode of Skinner Reconsidered.
yeah.
I did a podcast takeover and reviewed a song off of their Nothing Fancy album called I'm a Country Boy.
Oh, that's cool.
So it's from season 3, episode 4. I'll put a link in the show notes, but you should subscribe to that show anyway, because when I'm not on it, it's really good. And when I'm on it, it's just okay.
Yeah.
But it was a ton of fun doing it. And the Simple Man who hosts it is a great guy, super funny, great take on the band and all that sort of stuff. So it's funny because I'm
Cool.
really getting into Skinner now since listening to that show. I knew nothing about them before. So.
Well, just to be clear, too, anybody that's listening is I am active on social media. Just the only one that I've never really gotten into is Twitter. But everything else, like Facebook, Instagram, Snapchat, like everything, like I'm all over that stuff. It's just like, unfortunately, I think a lot of people like one of our favorite podcasts, Pod of Thunder, not very active on Instagram.
Right.
But I mean, if they were, I'd like be seeing stuff by them all the time. But apparently, like Twitter
you need to get on Twitter. We need to get Johnny Hurricane on Twitter.
Like I do.
Well, you are on Twitter, but you don't ever go on it.
I am, but I mean, I haven't updated it. I have my pictures all from like 10 years ago too. So I mean, I've had it for a long time. I just haven't done anything. But maybe I should try and, in light of the show, try and get back into it. It just never really appealed to me. But maybe now that we have kind of a fan base, like I can get more interactive on there because it'll be a reason for me to like these kind of discussions that you get to have. But
I think you'd be really into it because I think the thing about Twitter is I quit Facebook a couple years ago and no regrets, and then I just signed up for a new account just to post stuff about the show, and it's mostly because of all the political stuff, and it was just a bummer. I've always felt more bummed than anything. But my original Twitter I started in 2007, so I'm going on almost 13 years on Twitter. But I started this new one for the show back when we launched the show in April. So I've only been on for about 6 months, got way more followers, way more engagement. And the thing is, I'm only following things like about music and that I want to know about. And some of those people will occasionally post things I'm not interested in. But for the most part, I'm seeing this very heavily curated thing. And my main Twitter is just a mess of just complaining and political stuff. And don't get me wrong, there's plenty to complain about, but at the same time, like sometimes I just want to disconnect from that, and I don't want to be bummed out, and I don't want to be in that frame of mind. So it's good to just stay on my Deep Purple Twitter, where I can mostly focus on the band and other music things I'm interested in.
Well, you know what? Maybe that's not a terrible idea. So in light of the show having more episodes, I don't know. I was going to say gaining popularity, but I don't know how fast that's happening. But
well, I was looking at the let me pull it up now, the stats on our dashboard here, and we definitely peaked at Come Taste the Band, and we've had a little bit of a downslide since then. I mean, nothing crazy, but our after that our wrap up was just slightly down from Come Taste the Band. Then we had a big drop off after Warhorse and a big drop off after Captain Beyond. So we're at like our Stormbringer episode level now, and probably just due to maybe lack of interest in those particular things.
The curse of Mark 1.
Well, I think a lot of people just might listen to just the albums they're interested in. I mean, I a lot of the shows I listen to, like Pod of Thunder, for example, if it's a song by a band I've never heard, like I might save that for a little later. But then I got so into the show, into the guys and how great they are, that I just said, screw it. I'm just going to, what's this band and song I've never heard of? I'm going to listen to it. And I always enjoy it, whether I know the song or not.
Yeah. So I agree, same thing. So that's probably it. But I guess in light of the show kind of like continuing or like getting more engagement, even if we don't like not the most popular podcast out there. I mean, some of the conversations and engagement you've had, I mean, it's been sounds like it's been really stimulating,
Yeah.
meeting a lot of cool people and everything. So maybe I'll maybe post show, since I have the day off, I'll go and clean up my Twitter, or maybe even make a new one, and just have it be just like you, like following like the podcasters and musicians that we're interested in, and then you could be able to link that in the show notes going forward, and we can this way I can be part of some of that engagement.
I feel like being part of that circle too, like just the other day, if somebody likes something, sometimes you'll see it, and I was like, oh, somebody liked a post by Vernon Reed. I'm gonna follow Vernon Reed. Like, why not? Like, so I started following Vernon. So I've got all these weird, random. I mean,
Yeah,
not that weird. It's all in the kind of same circle, but just strange, like Rudy Sarzo and Vernon Reed and David Coverdale. These just people that are popping up in my thing. Plus other like fans and other podcasters as well.
right.
So it's all kind of keeping in with that music theme, which it's maybe why I'm more engaged. I don't even if I'm looking at like political stuff and it's like, I 100% agree with that, just don't want to really think about it right now. So it's good if you curate it, I guess.
Yeah.
So anyway, speaking of social media, I got a great quote that I think you saw, I commented on, but on Instagram, posted hey, we've got the Captain Beyond episode out, and Jonathan Headland posted that this was the first episode I was worried going into because I love this album so much. Luckily, I was worried for no reason, because you do get the magic that is Captain Beyond's first album. So
Oh, absolutely. What are you kidding me? We love that album.
I think he was just nervous, like, oh, they're gonna hate it and trash it. But
well, he must have heard the Warhorse episode and was like, oh shit.
Yeah, that probably didn't tee things up well for Captain Beyond. But
no, well, I mean, Rod's first post Purple effort was much better than Nicky's. I mean,
in our opinion, for sure.
No doubt about that.
Probably empirically,
fact.
But it's probably a fact.
Not opinion, fact.
I would love to hear if you think the first Warhorse album is absolutely better than the first Captain Beyond. Please let us know, and let us know why. We're not going to make
so we can block you.
No,
I'm kidding.
Not, again, I have a really hard time stretching that in my mind to think of that, but you know what? If you do, let us know why we're wrong, and we'll be civil about it. I promise.
We won't block you. I'm only joking.
So if you listened to the last episode, you heard that John was super frustrated about the song Donkey Ride Dream, and he couldn't figure out what it was driving him crazy. What does this song sound like? It even like I was, going on to the end of the episode doing the news or whatever, and I just looking over at him, and I can see him looking like upset, and I'm like, what's wrong? He's like, I'm still thinking about Donkey Ride Dream. He couldn't get it out of his head. But like within 30 minutes of ending the call, I got a text from him late at night that he had figured out what Donkey Ride Dream was reminding him of. So
are you going to play it?
I'm going to play it. Let me see if I can pull up this. I made a quick little playlist for a side-by-side here. If you're watching the video, unfortunately, it's going to give away maybe I can do this and you won't get it. So maybe you can, I'm going to share the screen with you and we're going to do a little side-by-side, and maybe you can hear what was driving him insane. All right. So here's Donkey Ride Dream to refresh your memory. I'm going to go to the part of the song here. I think the chorus is about here.
So nice, doesn't it seem so together? This is my favorite way of sharing a lazy day.
Here we go. Here's the chorus here.
A donkey ride dream. Donkey ride dream. A donkey ride dream. Donkey dreams not what it seems.
All right, so that's Donkey Ride Dream, and this is what John was thinking of.
sideburns and my hair slicked back. I'm coming to your town in my pink Cadillac. I'm just a honky-tonk man. I'm just a honky-tonk man. I'm just a honky-tonk man. I'm cool, I'm cocky, I'm bad. I pick a mean
There you
guitar.
go. That's the Honky Tonk Man song, which honestly I don't even know how you knew that song.
Because when I was a kid, I loved the WWF, like 1987, 88, like
Sure.
WWF, like Hulk Hogan, Honky Tonk Man, Hacksaw Jim Duggan,
Oh, yeah.
like all those guys, the Hart Foundation, like all that stuff. And so, of course, I bought the WWF album.
Oh yeah, is that the one where the Hulk Hogan I'm Real American? Is that the song?
I think so. I remember that. I think the album cover had like Hulk Hogan on the front. He was
And he's
wearing
holding
like
a guitar, right? But the guitar looks tiny because he's so huge, and he's or maybe
I
that's
think-
just a video or something. But he's
I think he was wearing a hard hat or something. It was like, I think there were maybe like, I get too much into it, but I think there might have been like 2 or 3 WWF albums, but this one came out like around 87 or 88, and it had like I had that song on it.
Yep.
Because that was like his theme song, because he was like this, like the bloated era, like Elvis guy or whatever. And I used to listen to that like tape like all the time, because it had like I think it had Real American. It had like it had the song Pile Driver on it. I just remembered it was just like who was that guy with the was that guy with the parrot? What the hell was his name? Coco Beware.
Yes, Coco Beware. Yeah.
And I think was his, but I think I can't remember. I think whose move was the pile? Maybe his move was the pile driver, and the sort of pile driver. It was just like it was just so stupid, But it's like anyway, this was like before I was really into like real music, and so
Oh, how dare you? That's not real music.
well, you know what I mean, music by real bands, but. But anyways, that's what it made me think of, because this was like, just on repeat all the time before I started buying, music by like bands that I wound up getting into, like Deep Purple and all the other bands that I was into, like, shortly after that. But the thing that kills me is like those girl singers in the background. Like,
He's a honky tonk man.
And then it's basic blues.
Yeah,
stuff.
but you're right though.
Like,
It does sound reminiscent of that. But but Ian Gillan recorded that first. But Honky Tonk Man wouldn't have heard it because it didn't get released until the '90s. So
yeah, but I mean, I'm sure that if you go back to like an actual Elvis song, or like any other kind of like R&B blues type of song, it's all got the same thing. But that's the one that was like stuck in my subconscious from 30 something odd years ago. That
I'm so glad that
of that.
I'm glad you thought of it, because when I got that text and I listened to the song and paired up with that picture, of course, I was just like, this is great.
And it's like, but the point being is that it couldn't have been a more ridiculous comparison, like, so it's just like, I'm glad that that's the one it made me think of, because it's like, oh, this WWF wrestler that dressed up like Elvis in the mid '80s.
We're so spoiled in the days of the internet here, where we forget what it was like when you had no options to figure out a thing. But there's certain things that aren't Googleable. So like, you could have Googled what song sounds like Ian Gillan's Donkey Ride Dream. There are a few things too obscure for Google, and that would have been one of them. Like nobody.
Yeah.
Now when you Google that, our show's going to come up, which is great. For the one other person in the history of the universe who's going to draw that comparison, they'll be like, oh, I've discovered the Deep Purple podcast. How fantastic.
Well, yeah, I think you're right. Some things you're not able to Google. So I actually had to rely on what's left of my brain cells to like come up with that.
Just imagine you going to this like meditative state, just like, it's going to come to me. I'm glad it did, because you would have had an awful night of sleep if you hadn't been able to think of it.
Oh God, I was just like stomping around the house, like trying to think of it until like, it came to me. And then I just like, and then that's when Google or YouTube came up very handy, because then I went to it and I'm like, I think this is it. And I wasn't satisfied until I heard the chorus. And then I was like, that's it. And then I immediately texted you.
You hear these things sometimes that, you could hear an album that you've heard hundreds of times. If somebody plays a little snippet from it and it's not on the top of your mind, you're going to be like, I know I've heard this a million times, but what is it? It drives me crazy.
Yeah.
But
But
that's
anyways, yeah,
I'm
very
glad
funny.
we got to the bottom of that. See, we're uncovering all the big news. We're breaking stories left and right here on the Deep Purple podcast. This is our journalistic endeavor here.
Yeah, a 1987 song that sounds like a 1972 song revealed.
Which sounds like a 1950 something song.
All
right,
the breaking news here that's fit to talk about. Oh,
well,
hang on, pause.
Okay. All right. So last week we talked about Cherkazoo, the Cherkazoo side of this project, which Gillan shopped around to Disney. Gillan states on his own, remember his website, his Karamba website? Ever go to that thing back in the day?
Yeah, it sounds familiar. I might have. What was it, Karamba?
Karamba, yeah. I don't know if he still has it.
I feel like, yeah, maybe I have. It's well, everything that's on the net is going to be there forever. So
yeah. Well, it says Gillan.com Karamba.
What is Karamba?
Very, very old school, like late 90s, early 2000s looking website. But yeah, it does have like updated info. So somebody's up there updating. I don't know what kind of content management they're using for this, but it's got really recent stuff from his what do you call it, contractual obligation album, which only came out I think last month.
That's interesting.
But if you look at the top of the website, it's like this pixelated autograph of him. It's very old. But anyway, on this website years ago, he said about the Cherkazoo project, a meeting in the 70s with all the senior people at Disney. I did a presentation at their studio in Hollywood, and they were very enthusiastic. However, it coincided with a sea change of company policy, and they were in production with Robin Hood, having decided to go back to classic stories as the basis for their films, due to bad figures on some recent contemporary stuff. So that's why the project never materialized in animated form.
Mm-hmm.
Ray Fenwick remembers the Cherkazoo project, and this is from the Smoke on the Water book by Dave Thompson. He says, at the time it was kind of strange, but it was one of those projects that you could see somewhere along the line there was some connection. Fenwick, along with Moran, who's on the album, or on this portion, that portion of it, would later join the Ian Gillan band. And then the song Monster in Paradise was gifted to Hard Stuff, which was John Gustafson's group at the time, and they put it on their album Bulletproof. So they have a version of Monster in Paradise there. So the Other Stories part was recorded around 1974, and most of the people on this are Dave Wintour, who had worked with Rick Wakeman, Andy Steele, who'd been Peter Frampton's drummer, and then Bernie Holland on guitar. So after leaving Deep Purple, Ian Gillan purchased the Delane Lay Studios. I'm still convinced I'm pronouncing wrong. And he renamed it Kingsway Recorders. So it was the same studio that a lot of the Deep Purple stuff had been recorded in, and later stuff would be recorded in, because I believe they recorded Butterfly Ball there, as well as doing some mixing and stuff for later Deep Purple albums, even though Ian Gillan owned it. So apart from recording other acts, he used the studio to work on his own projects whenever he was kind of retired, quote unquote retired from the music business, but whenever he felt the desire, he could jump into the studio and do his own thing, which he did with this. So in spring of 1974, he got to the studio to record the second half of this compilation, and he finished up the rest of the tracks in the fall. So there you go. That's the setup. And now we have the tracks.
And something that's on my mind too, we were talking about before the tracks, Ian Gillan's website, or the Karamba website.
Karamba.
It's Karamba.
Gillan, Karamba.
If you want to see more websites that look like the beginning of the internet, please go to Craigslist.com or IMDb.com, who have never updated their sites ever, I don't think.
IMDb has, but it's not been a huge.
I feel they're due for like a little streamlining. Craigslist too, which looks, pretty much what I feel like a yard sale would look like, in visual form on the internet.
Yeah, Craigslist for sure has changed very little, if anything. IMDb's updated a little bit.
I still don't like going to it. Whenever I see that come up in a search, I'm like, what else is there?
What, Craigslist?
No, IMDb. I search for an actor and I'm like, I'll just use Wikipedia. I don't want to, this isn't very me friendly.
Yeah, I find it very cumbersome to navigate that. Funny, because I like Discogs, which is like IMDb for music, but
Yeah.
it's have you ever checked that site out?
No, but I mean, you've obviously mentioned it a bunch
I
of times.
link to it a lot in the show notes because it's the same idea as IMDb, but it's just so much easier to navigate and see what's actually going on. IMDb, I feel like, is just this. It takes you a lot longer to find things. It's a lot more tedious than it needs to be. But anyway, get into. I've been having a few audio glitches here. Hopefully, they're not showing up in the main recording. But
We're
do
going to
you
be
have?
the other
You want to
stories.
jump into the song now? The other stories portion.
The other stories portion, yes. Which, full disclosure here, I did listen to the when we did the first part of the album. Since it wasn't that long, it was like what, 5, 6 tracks, something.
On the first part of the album it's like 8 tracks, but 2 of them are like kind of filler in studio talking stuff.
So I mean, up to was Donkey Ride Dream like the last track?
That was the last track, yeah.
Yeah, I think I listened to up to that. I actually haven't listened to any of this stuff, or hadn't had a chance to listen to any of it. Or I think I might have listened to like 1 or 2. So this is going to be mostly like new. I mean, I've heard it before, but not for a while. So I didn't actually get to do any pre-listening
Great.
you
Well,
have. So
you're in for a treat then.
Which, yeah, I feel like from what I heard from the first couple of songs on this second portion, like I'm going to like it a lot more.
All right. Well, here we go. Let's kick it off then with Trying to Get to You.
I've been traveling over mountains, even through the valleys too.
So
wow.
This is an Elvis cover, which is not hard to.
But you know what it makes me...
Not written by Elvis, but he's obviously doing the Elvis version here.
Right. You know what it makes me think of? It sounds exactly like something that would have been on the Gillan Glover thing from like 1988.
Accidentally on purpose?
Yeah. It does. It sounds just like it. I mean, just with like the sax and the production and like the effect on his vocals, it's just like... Sounds like he could have recorded it for that, and it would have just fit right in with that. I actually like it.
So yeah, he does 2 covers to open up this portion of it. This one is written by Singleton and McCoy, but Elvis Presley, like so many songs, made it popular. And they had previously released this on for Gillan fans only compilation in 1980, which was given away free to accompany the purchase of the Glory Road album, so some people may have been familiar with it. This version is produced by Roger Clark. I love this great little ride work on the drums there.
Good stuff.
But he's definitely ripping into it here. And honestly, I think this was probably my first exposure to this song. I don't think I ever heard the Elvis version before hearing this. So I didn't know about the first time listening to this that these first 2 songs were covers. I just thought, like, after Donkey Ride Dream going into this is like, whoa, crap, what are we doing here? Not really understanding the kind of history behind it at that time either. Just thinking this really took a turn. We're talking about Professor Pig and the Bull of Barantis, and all of a sudden just going into this blues rocker. I guess that must be Moran on... No, Moran didn't do this part. I don't know who's on keys for this. There's not a lot of information about this part of who played what. It might be Mike Moran, though, because I know he did one of the other songs on this part. So. He would later join Gillan and Gillan then. But I love the horns. Ian Gillan doesn't do enough with horns. Very, we talk a lot about the kind of aging rocker, not that he would have been aging at that point, but going back to the people we grew up listening to, going back to their roots and doing like 50s revival stuff, and everyone did it. And Gillan was no...
Nate?
Yep. Oh, Got an unstable
boy.
internet connection here. Oh, they're
Oh
back.
yeah, you froze.
You got really pixelated there for a second, but you're back.
Yeah, you completely froze.
But we talk a lot about the 50s revival stuff with the people we kind of grew up and idolized as heroes, because they're, they were kind of a previous generation for us, and then they're revering their previous generation in the 50s and going back to that. And I'm not always a huge fan of that. Like John Lennon did a whole album of 50s songs, and Gillan has a couple of them. But I really like this, and I think in smaller doses. I don't know, I'd need to hear a whole album of him doing Elvis songs, but
Yeah,
I think that this one works really well. Yep.
I liked it.
All right.
I like the
so,
Gillan version.
All right. So what are we going to do for ratings there?
Well, now I wish they didn't play the Elvis version, because now this kind of kind of takes it down a notch.
Yeah.
No, but trying to get to you. Yeah. You know what? I'm gonna just because I like it, I'm gonna give it a 4.
Yeah, I'm doing the same.
I'm gonna give it a 4 because it's a good song, it's a good performance, it's like faithful to, let's say, that Elvis version, but it also adds in the elements that we love about Ian Gillan in it. It's not as that quirky I'm gonna sing about the bull of Barantis, or I don't know.
Yeah, though it doesn't have this part of the album has a less whimsy than the first part, which you could look at that as a negative, but when you look at it what it was trying to be, which is like an animated children's special, it makes total sense. If this was like just kind of a weird album, you'd be like, oh, this is a little odd, but for what it was, I think it worked.
Well, to be fair, I'm not that into whimsy either. Like, even when if my niece is going to put on something like this, I'm like, oh, here we go. I know I'm not going to have fun, But if she's just like, Uncle Johnny, play Shout at the Devil or something, I'd be like, there we go, there we go.
Listen to Destroyer instead. All right, next up, we got Ain't That Lovin' You Baby, keeping with the same kind of thing here. Ain't That Lovin' You Baby.
And I forget who made this song popular originally.
This song was written and recorded by Jimmy Reed.
Okay, so that was the original artist?
Yep.
Okay. I like this. I mean, if you think about it, that's like Gillan doing like his. But this was a 50s song or 60s.
Yeah, I believe it's from the 50s.
Yeah, I mean, him doing that like 20 or so years after that as his influence, still being a younger guy, is like actually cool. Whereas, like, I don't know, if he did this now, it would be less interesting to me, I think.
Yep. Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, he's paying homage to his heroes.
Right. In the 70s while he was still young.
And this song was released in 1956. Recorded in Chicago, December 30th, 1955. And this is interesting in that, Elvis wasn't much of a songwriter. He was more of a performer, and this was written and performed by Jimmy Reed. Great little sax solo here.
Yeah, you had some of those. I mean, if you think about it, a lot of the most popular acts when we were growing up, like pop acts, were performers and didn't write any of their own music.
Oh, sure, yeah. But I like Gillan's voice in this style. I think he does a really good job with it.
Yeah. Well, I mean, that's really his influences. So it makes sense that he would sound good singing this stuff, which is kind of a surprise because you hear his Deep Purple stuff or whatever, and you just wouldn't even think of it.
Right. He grew up with this style of music. He came into his own doing that 60s kind of psychedelic stuff, and then he kind of invented helped invent, I should say, that kind of hard rock screaming sort of stuff. So he three very distinct styles. One that he grew up with, one that he came up in, and then one that he crafted.
Mm-hmm.
This is definitely one of those things that this was supposed to be a fade out. It probably should have faded out by now, but they just keep it going until everything falls apart, which I think is always fun to listen to too. And it must have been recorded live, or mostly live, because you can hear the horns keep going. Big little jazzy guitar going on there. Or bluesy, I should say. I think any song that ends in a fade out should legally be required to also include a link to where you can hear where everything fell apart. It's always interesting to me.
Yeah, it's always my favorite.
All right, Ain't That Lovin' You Baby?
I liked it, but slightly less than Trying to Get to You. So
yeah, I'm thinking
3.5, 3.5.
And I do want, for completion's sake, I do want us to just take a real quick listen to some of the original of Jimmy Reed's Ain't That Lovin' You. A 2-minute song here.
No, I love you, babe. No, I love you, babe. No, I love you, babe. But you don't even know my name. Let me tell you, babe.
A very traditional, early blues style song.
Yeah.
Kill somebody just to get back home to you. I ain't that love you, baby. I ain't that love
The horns on both songs added a lot to it, but I am a sucker for horns, so some people don't care for it as much. So anyway, that's the original by Jimmy Reed. Give you a little taste. All right, and moving along, we talked last week about the song "Driving Me Wild." Take one is part of the Cherkazoo project for some reason, and then there's 2 more versions of the album. This is the first one that happens in this half of the album, and this is noted as the fast take of "Driving Me Wild." So let's take a listen. It always was weird to me. It doesn't seem really much faster, but
No.
Stiffen up my bones, summon up my humility. I've shed a million tears of shame.
I like this version a lot better already.
yeah, the other one had more like backing vocals and things, especially on the chorus. This one's more like a traditional Ian Gillan doing it alone sort of thing.
Well, the other one almost sounded like it was like more of a rough demo. This one
Yes.
sounds more of a pulled together version.
Oh, wait till you hear the third one. So this was engineered by Martin Birch, which may have a reason why it sounds more pulled together,
And the Wasp.
and produced by Roger Glover. Martin, the Bull of Barantis Wasp. Birch.
You know, the beginning part with the kind of the guitar intro and these verses like sound like it could be more metal.
Yes.
Like a metal band could do it. It could be like turned up that way. The chorus not so much. The chorus
No.
sounds too out of place for that, but like this whole thing sounds like a band like 10 years from then could have like done like a really metal version of it.
I feel like I'm surprised nobody's done this song in some form. So the song's only 2.5 minutes long, very short song. But I always really had a soft spot for this song, both musically and lyrically. I feel like it's really strong. Kind of loses it at the end. Just kind of, he's talking now. He's like, yeah, maybe do the chorus again. So even though it does sound more pulled together, it wasn't quite ready for prime time. We'll get to that in a minute, I suppose. So, all right. So that's Driving Me Wild, Fast Take.
Well, that one was good. I like that. That one I'll give like a 3.5. Ian Gillan headbands.
Ian Gillan.
3.5 headbands.
3.5 culturally appropriated headbands.
Yeah. Yeah, because that one was good, and I heard the potential in it, but from what you've been saying, I feel like it's gonna get more with the next.
Yeah, and I'm giving it a 4, and I still, I might have mentioned this in the last episode. I can't tell if it's because of what I know the final one is going to be. Like, I just have this love for this song. That's Driving Me Wild. The next song is a huge departure now, in a good way though. I really like it. This song is called Music in My Head. Very like easy listening, sort of 70s groove to the song.
Yeah. Oh, I remember this.
Remember this song?
Yeah, this is very like very like, I don't know, what's like that light radio, like ABBA.
Yeah.
Like something you'd hear and you'd just be like, a suburban 70s mom would be listening to this while making pancakes and orange juice from that squeeze can of concentrate shit from the freezer.
Stuff was nasty. But this song is...
I like this though.
I like it. I like the feeling of it, and I could see why a lot of Gillan diehards would be like, oh, this isn't heavy enough for me or whatever. But I love... The thing I like about this album is seeing his versatility.
I was gonna say, yeah, it shows that like how many different styles he can do.
Yeah, there's nothing. I mean, he can do the 50s crooner. He can do... We'll see him belting out some metal screams in a little bit. He's doing kind of the Lounge Lizard song here. Here's some... So the keyboards here would have been done by Mike Moran. Let's see. Yeah, Mike Moran, Dave Wintour on bass, Andy Steele on drums, and Bernie Collins on guitar. And this was written by all 5 of them. Gillan, Holland, Moran, Steele, and Wintour. Whereas music and... no, I'm sorry. This one was written only by Gillan.
You know who I could hear singing this?
Who's that?
Glenn Hughes.
Oh, God, yeah.
See, this is one song where I think either one of these guys could tackle this and it would sound great. I think Hughes would have done something drastically different with it, but if he just like had all the same music and like they're just 2 different vocal takes, like I think I'd love both of them.
Oh yeah, I would love. I'm surprised he didn't cover it. Gillan could have sold this to Hughes easily.
Oh yeah, but this is total like late 70s sounding, like, you know, mom rock.
It sounds like it could be like a hidden track on Play Me Out or something.
Yeah. Which was a very kind of like, you know, album of the Sign of the Times album.
Yeah. Had that kind of Stevie Wonder, but this doesn't have as much of a Stevie Wonder vibe to it musically, but...
No, but definitely, like you said, definitely like a 70s AM radio, like easy listening vibe, like, you know, Partridge Family, like... And that's all good stuff to me, because that's all stuff that I really enjoy. Yeah, I could hear the Partridge Family doing this too.
It always comes back to the Partridge Family with you.
Yeah, I don't know why.
Well, I think you're right, though.
Because, I mean, they were a band. They were a band.
It sounds like there's female backing vocals on this. But as we've talked about before, they just regularly do not credit. I mean, of course, this was an unreleased project, so they might not even have any idea who they were. They're speculating on a lot of this stuff, but unfortunately, backup singers didn't get any credit back then.
And neither did apparently George Benson on guitar.
George Benson?
It kind of sounds like that George Benson, like, late 70s, like, smooth jazz guitar solo. You know, you just need the guy in the background going, singing along with it. I don't care what anybody says. That shit's good.
Oh, it's great.
When you're in the mood for it. When you're in the mood for it.
First, I thought you had some information that George Benson played on this. I was like, what?
No, but I mean, it sounds.
I didn't find that out in my research, but I'd believe it.
No, but that's a very, like, you know, like George Benson, like, you know, like a Breezin' album, you know, style, like a guitar solo in there. Which
Totally.
Don't know if he invented it, but definitely was wicked popular.
Wicked popular.
Wicked.
Yeah, that's Music in My Head. So what say you on Music in My Head?
You know, I'm gonna go with, like, you know, I'm gonna go with a 4 on that one because that really kind of hit a nerve with me. So
I couldn't agree more. I'm going with a 4 as well. I think it's got a great. It just creates an atmosphere. That song, you feel like you know what it was like to be in the studio when they were recording that, and what it felt like to be hanging out with Gillan and the crew, going to the discotheque.
Yeah,
I don't know what they did back then.
Yeah, going to Howard Johnson's.
Howard Johnson's.
I don't know. I'm just trying to think of 70s things.
Oh, that's true. Yeah, that's true.
Going to Howard Johnson's for a pancake breakfast. Was that a restaurant or a hotel? I don't even remember.
Hojo's.
Hojo's. I forgot about that.
Wasn't it? Was it both? I don't know.
I think it was both. I feel like, yeah, let's go to Howard Johnson's.
I know there was some when I was working in Connecticut a few years ago. I know there was Howard Johnson's there.
Yeah, I don't think, just like Blockbuster, I think there's like one left.
I think it's a hotel and a restaurant, but who knows?
But yeah, that's definitely like it. Like you were right. It evokes like a mood. And for as much as, music is very subjective. You know, as much as I say I don't like really care for like the stuff that's like whimsy and stuff, and I like heavier stuff. You know, I think most people would just be like, well, why does he like this? You know, and it's like,
yeah, you can't define any one individual's.
Exactly. Tastes. Like for some reason that just brings me back to like, you know, a good memory of like, you know, maybe what I thought, you know, the 70s was when I was growing up, because the 70s was like the era that I was born in. So of course, like, you know, it, you know, makes sense in the context of like, you know, Gillan looking back at the 50s stuff, you know, is like stuff that he grew up with. You know, I'm looking back at the 70s, like early 80s stuff, you know, even when we were in the 90s, that's why I think we latched on to this stuff so much.
That was when we were becoming aware, like we were around in the 70s, but we weren't like, we didn't have a lot of opinions.
Right. But
it's like, yep, this is just the things that happen. Yep.
Yeah. But I think that's what
smoking everywhere. And yep, this is just what goes on.
But I think that's what a lot of people do is like when they get to that age where they start to like explore, like, you know, the time that they were born in, and they become like connected to it through, you know, music or whatever. And
yeah, that's a good point.
Yeah, because I mean, I see it all the time, you know, like even like the 90s kids that I work with now, you know, are all like, you know, older, and they're just like all like, oh yeah, Rugrats and all that other stuff, and I'm like, I don't know. You know, I was listening to this shit, you know, discovering my youth, you know, and so it's like,
and they're all surprised. I know, like there were some people at work talking about like the Lion King, and they're like, oh yeah, the Lion King, you know, like you never saw the Lion King. I was like, I was in freaking college when that came out. Like,
I didn't give a shit
I
about
just
the Lion
wasn't. I
King.
wasn't going to watch. You know, you were 5, and that makes perfect sense. But like, yeah, if you want to talk to me about Disney movies 10 years earlier than that, or 12, 15 years earlier, but yeah, there's just little certain things you just kind of missed. And even with me, between me and my wife, she's only 3 years younger than me, but every so often just something will pop up and I'll be like, yeah, I have no idea what you're talking about, even with the slightest age difference.
Yeah.
All right, so that was Music in My Head. Next up, we have a song that you will recognize from this and from its later album. This is You Make Me Feel So Good.
I want to make you feel as if you want to let me make you tonight.
So this was, of course, redone for the Child in Time album, the first Ian Gillan Band album. And this was written by Gillan, Holland, Moran, Steele, and Wintour. It's a little bit dirtier version of it. Dirty both figuratively and like lyrically.
Yeah.
The classic Gillan song talking about just basically just talking about having sex with a woman. It's not very subtle. Great little keys and like Stevie Wonder's clavichord sounding keys in the background.
Yeah, what's going on with that? That's interesting. I think Glenn Hughes snuck that into the mix. He broke into the studio at night and he was just like,
I'm gonna lay down some clavichord tracks on this. It's kind of funny about the Glenn Hughes album, I think it is. I think it's Play Me Out, where like the credits on the album, like they credit Glenn Hughes as playing like 25 different instruments, but like it's like half of them are, they could have just put keyboards, but like he plays the Fender Rhodes, he plays the organ, he plays the piano, it's like, yeah, he plays keys, like
just
you don't need to
say keyboard.
He plays the Fender bass, he plays the Rickenbacker bass. Like, okay, I get it, Glenn. You play a lot of instruments.
I think that's a good thing about demos, which this obviously was, is that you can like, damn.
Yeah, sorry, I had to cut you off for that one. Although it would still have been going on after you were done talking.
It's true. That's what I'm talking about, though. That's what I'm talking about. Well, that's what I was gonna say. That's a good thing about demos, is that you could put like the clavichord in the background and be like, let's see if this works.
Yep.
You can basically do whatever you want.
Just this very kind of slow, plodding sort of song about having sex. Another one, I don't know if they were intending for a fade out, but I mean, this goes on for almost like another minute and a half. Just have everyone add improv and ad lib. It just seems lyrically like he starts off the song by talking about like it sounds like one of those songs like he's talking to a woman about like everything. Oh, here's what we're gonna do, and then but it immediately becomes clear that's like no, they're actually just doing it.
I like how you said that. It's like, here's what we're gonna do.
It's like I want to make you feel as if you want to be. I want to make you feel as if you want to let me make tonight. My head is saying yes. My body tells me that it would be so nice. And then it's just like now they're just having, you know, sex the entire rest of the song. He's shivering. They're moving slow. I'm looking at this lyrics website and this song's not even over yet. Let's have a listen. But the lyrics website says there's a line that says nobody gives a damn about the things we're gonna do, but they put for damn they put D and then they start out the rest of it like, ooh, it's a very risque word. You can't just go printing that. This must be like a Christian lyrics website or something.
I know this must have been back in the 30s. Jeez.
It's the original, yeah, one of the original servers.
Yeah, one of the original websites from back in the 30s. Gone with the Wind when they, frankly, my dear, I don't give a damn. He swore. Oh, you can't say that. Oh, look, and she showed ankle too. Oh.
I'll be to dinner soon, honey. I just got to finish reviewing this Ian Gillan album.
That was really good. Wow, that was scarily good.
Ian Gillan's new album, Stop.
D star star star.
D star star star. I don't know how he's going to get away with that. All right. You make me feel so good.
But in the meantime, the lyrics can talk about banging somebody, but you just don't say damn.
Yeah, God forbid. Yeah, all this other like innuendo flying all over the place, but don't say that.
All right, so
how does this song make you feel?
So good. This song makes me feel 3.5.
Yeah, I'm thinking the same.
It's good, but I don't think as good as later versions, but it's still good, and that scream in the middle too. That
screams
belt,
and I haven't heard
like,
I haven't listened to the Ian Gillan band version as many times, so I can't remember like if he does anything similar screaming wise in that one.
I want to
I seem to remember being a little bit more slow tempo and more like kind of sexualized, if you will, and the Ian Gillan band one, but I'd have to listen to it again. And we will listen to it again. Okay, next song up, She Called Me Softly. I like the beginning of this song. Listen to this.
All right, so
silly.
Goofy country Gillan. Yeah, it sounds like some 70s, like, you know, country rube stuff. Like, yeehaw, pa, let's go to the feed store.
Go to the feed store.
I don't know.
So maybe this one was written by Gillan alone.
You know, it's funny because no matter all the different styles and crazy stuff that you hear on this album, it's like it all sounds right for Ian Gillan.
Yeah.
So I mean, I guess that's one of the best things about him is that he is so versatile. Like he can just do hard rock and stuff, and he can do this crazy, like kind of like eclectic kind of music, and it just all like fits him.
It's funny because this has like this screams of filler blues song, but there was really no need to have a filler song. This was like a project that he was working on, but maybe he just wanted to do a blues song. I don't know. Just kind of a little country twang to that guitar solo.
It's actually a really cool solo.
Bernie Holland, apparently. And I don't know who's doing it. It could be Ian Gillan doing the harmonica. And I think that's a harmonica at the beginning of the song. That like kind of...
Yeah, that's got to be.
It just seems...
Gillan. And then the kind of like the picking guitar, like the kind of has that anyone's daughter feeling to it.
Yeah. I love that little backing vocal thing.
She said, give it to me, baby, but I couldn't get the darn thing to go.
So
Listen to this.
She put me down all the time.
Oh, maybe it's the next line. This song's kind of all over the place this morning. But I like how he brings the dynamics down and you get just that backing vocal. And the way it's mixed, I can't tell if he just double tracked his own backing vocals or if they had some female backing singers or.
She makes me feel like a dirty, dirty, no good son of a gun. She makes me feel like a dirty, dirty, no good son of a gun.
No, that's got to be backing vocals.
And then she swing her hips and says, "Come on, baby, shoot me some fun."
So the last one was a kind of a slow and dirty song about having sex, and this is more like a quick, fast-paced blues song about having sex.
Yeah, and then the breakdown, he's basically like, and I can't get it up. Which is something you don't want to admit in a song.
And it's also something I don't believe about Ian Gillan.
And if it did happen, I doubt he'd want to admit it.
No, I don't think.
It's something that you don't broadcast.
Just doesn't seem his style. That'd be like Coverdale singing about I couldn't get it up. I'm like, yeah, not buying it.
And if he can't, then the microphone more than makes up for it. The mic stand.
He's always got a surrogate ready with the microphone stand. Well, here we go. It's kind of winding down, but it's kind of standard blues fare from Gillan. Yet another song that was supposed to be faded out.
Like, all right, how many more times can we like rise to a crescendo and then bring it back home, baby? Like, I've had enough. I quit.
All right, what do you say about this song?
I like it. I think it's good. Like you said, just like a standard, I guess, blues song. The 3.5, whatever things we're doing at this point.
3.5 carambas.
Yeah, carambas.
I'm giving it a 3. I like it's enjoyable and in the context of the album, but overall I feel like it's almost 5 minutes long because it's one of those songs where every verse is the same line 3 times. It's fun, it's enjoyable. Everyone's performance is of course great, but
yeah,
it's not breaking a ton of new ground for me.
I like the reverb sound. Like I like the room sound on the guitar solo, even though it's like can get a little long. I like how he admitted that he couldn't get a chubby. It was kind of amusing. And all these kind of like filler blues songs, like the standard that I measure it against is place in line. It's like
it's an easy bar to clear for you.
It has to be worse than that for me to call it a bad blues song.
Yeah, that would be a real tough one for you.
Mm-hmm.
All right. So next up, we have the third and final version of "Driving Me Wild" from this album, called "Driving Me Wild, Take 3." Kind of see how the song has evolved to this point. Love the guitar in the song. Great phrasing, like nice wah effect on the guitar.
I feel like it sounds like kind of a Jesus Christ Superstar outtake or something.
100%. And it's
like
gonna,
what they did here with the chorus a lot more than the other two versions.
and it's about to sound even more Jesus Christ Superstar in a second. That scream just gives me chills every time. Totally in his element. But you're like the music, the musicianship and the arrangement, the sound of the instruments paired with that scream and everything, totally evokes Jesus Christ Superstar.
Yeah.
Which is never a bad thing for me. Some great bass playing there too. That guitar, Bernie Holland, I'm telling you, man.
He's pretty good.
Great stuff. I think this might be the longest. No, actually, I think the fast take is a little bit longer. I like that ending. Even though it was like not intended, I just really, for some reason, really like that. All right, so that was Driving Me Wild, take 3.
Well, take 3 gets a 4 from me.
And I bumped that one up to a 4.5. To me, that's the pinnacle of that song.
Well, I mean, I guess if you're going through, the first version through this one, I mean, my guess is that that is the evolution of the song. Like it went from like the first one was like a demo and the second one was another take and this one was like the more finished take that they wound up getting to. So it's obviously shows that they had worked out the song to where it became like really good, at this point. So yeah,
I played it enough times at that point.
Obviously this is the best version of it, I think.
Agreed.
We think.
Okay, next up, You Let My Heart Astray.
A little Ella Fitzgerald.
Yeah, right.
Vibe going on here.
I don't know who would have done the orchestrations and stuff for this. Or is it possible that that's like a synth patch that Moran is using on the keys?
Hard to tell.
I mean, it sounds like it's real strings, though. It's a nice, really soulful kind of. It reminds me of is it from the first Lenny Kravitz album? Is it My Precious Love? Is that the name of the song?
Oh man, it's been a while since I heard it, but maybe.
But it's got that same kind of feeling of. I'm looking it up right now. Let Love Rule. My Precious Love, yeah. It's the 4th track on that album. It's got that really soulful delivery by Lenny Kravitz. They've got the organ in the background. It's got a similar feel to this. And I think like this song and the other one, the reason I like them more than the She Called Me Softly is, like What Driving Me Wild, for example, is 2 minutes shorter than that song, but I feel like it gets so much more across.
Yeah.
Rather than just, and this, here's another song that's just standard blues. But to me, it's always about when you don't really notice that it's standard blues. I love this part. I love the guitar work on this, and the tone is great.
Really kind of like jazzy, like rock.
He's got to be using some sort of hollow body, like a Gibson or a Gretsch or something. It sounds really... Little quick cymbal chokes there. Not what you're expecting in the song. I mean, this album, if anything, shows that Gillan can do anything.
Pretty much.
He takes you on a tour of whimsical 50s crooner, soulful, almost jazz singing, proto-metal screaming.
Well, then you wonder like how, like, you know, was it like 10 years later he wound up in Black Sabbath?
Yeah, it'll be almost 10 years after this. They treat you to a nice little jazzy guitar solo. Now you get a little jazzy piano solo in the second part. It's like a jazz version of Deep Purple. They've got their guitar break, they got their piano break.
Yeah.
The more I'm listening to Mike Moran, the more I feel like he's really underrated.
Did you say what else he did?
I didn't, but I know he was on the Butterfly Ball. He was in the Ian Gillan band. I'm sure he was in a ton of other stuff too. Let's see, what else do we have here?
Just picture sitting in like a dark club, like, I'll have another martini
Yeah.
while listening to this. Extra dirty.
Just like when I was a bartender, this one guy would come in and he'd be like, "Just touch the bottle of vermouth." so you like, and he wanted a vodka martini. He's like, "Vodka martini, just touch the vermouth." I was like, "Oh, so you just want some vodka?"
So you just want a big shot of vodka then?
Some vodka with olives. You got it. This ending is really nice.
Well executed.
Yep.
You know what? I think that might be like a synth patch.
It might,
like you
yeah,
were
it might
saying.
be. It would make
'Cause
more
it-
sense. Yeah.
Because it sounded like at the end of it, it sounded like it could have been, like, it didn't sound like a real, like, orchestra.
I mean, I gotta say, for a synth patch, it sounds damn good. I mean, normally those fake. So Mike Moran he played with Mike Dabo of Manfred Mann fame and King Herod fame, Jesus Christ Superstar. It always comes back to Jesus Christ Superstar.
Mm-hmm.
What else did he do? Why is this not working here? He did a lot of stuff I'm honestly not familiar with. Butterfly Ball, like I said. Yeah, just lots of like one-off things. He did a couple solo albums too. He played on a Ted Neely album, another Jesus Christ Superstar connection.
No,
So I
they could-
wonder if he was in like a touring version of Jesus Christ Superstar or something to know all these guys.
makes it obvious why we were getting some Jesus Christ Superstar
Yeah.
vibes.
That's yep. You got two guys from Jesus Christ Superstar. That'll do it. Okay.
All right, so let me see. Yeah, this one was again, liked it. Thought it was really good. I'll give it a 4.
Yep. I'm thinking the same. We're kind of on the same page today.
Yeah,
Giving it a 4.
yeah, which I feel like, rating the album not really as an album, but really standalone songs makes it kind of confusing to give these songs like higher ratings, because it's like, oh, should I give it a 4? But it's different than when you're doing like a whole album of like a collection of like kind of songs that are meant to be cohesive. I feel like we're just kind of like, all right, now listen to this one-off song.
Yeah. It's just like it's a compilation scoring too.
Yeah. So I mean, it's like it's different because it's all different styles and everything, and each one kind of brings you to a different mood, rather than like, we're settling down to listen to like Come Taste the Band or something. It's like, all right, like we have certain expectations for this as a whole.
Right, totally.
But yeah, this is really good stuff.
All right. Next up, we have the song A Little Share of Plenty. This is the longest song on the compilation.
Whoa. Yeah, it is. All right, we get it.
Yeah, it's a lengthy intro. Maybe it was supposed to be a fade in. Who knows? But yeah. Don't worry, it gets more interesting. It's speeding up already. Here we go.
I got places to be. No, just like late at night. I got nowhere to be after this.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah. Bed.
Yeah, maybe a nap after all this tough podcasting. Jesus, how long is this intro? All right.
I like the mood it sets. But yeah, you can see most of the song is in this intro.
Yeah, it's good. It's got a good vibe to it, but I can't like put my finger on like what kind of, like it's not heavy, but it's not pop.
Yeah, it's an interesting vibe, but it seems to be the song kind of about, it's kind of like a song about an entitled jerk. Like he's talking about, he wants this, he's whining about, this character is whining about how he wants a job with great pay where he only has to work 2 days a week and all this stuff, all the stuff that we all want.
True.
But it sounds like he's like wants it because he feels entitled to it. I love that
A little share of plenty, meaning like that he wants like a piece of the pie, so to
Yep.
speak.
I like the 16 notes in the hi-hat, just really keeping that intensity. Or is it 30-second notes? I don't know, I can't tell.
Well, it's kind of a Deep Purple feeling.
Yeah, I love this little instrumental section. It's almost like a solo, but it's very composed and repetitive, so it's more just like an instrumental part.
It kind of reminds me of like the Highway Star
Yeah.
solo, but slowed down. You know, I feel like this could be like a song and like a musical.
Yeah.
And you know, Ian Gillan is like walking around the stage, like being the guy complaining about wanting the little share of plenty.
Yeah.
He's like the lead character or something. Maybe that's what it makes me think of.
Yeah, it has a theatrical feel about it.
Which again is not too far off from like, you know, what he is all about or can do or has done.
Mm-hmm. I love how they bring in that thing in the background now. The song builds very well. Drums great. Nothing wrong with riding that ride cymbal a little bit. It just has a very epic feel about it.
Yeah.
Conjuring these like biblical images. And it wouldn't be an Ian Gillan song if he doesn't go all out at the end. Know like just kind of what was going through his mind at this point. So many little Gillan gems that went unexplored on this album that he could have easily brought into one of his many acts at some point. Wondering if that was also supposed to be a fade out. But at any rate, I'm glad they didn't fade it out. Okay, so Little Share of Plenty. What are you feeling?
I thought it was interesting. So yeah, I think it was good, but I'm just gonna give it a 3. Because it was kind of long, and like it was good, but nothing really, you know, stood out about it. But you know, he always writes good, like has good like vocal and like instrumental melodies in there and stuff. So I mean, it's just like another one of his good ideas or songs, but just thought it was okay.
All right. I just heard something upstairs. I'm giving it a 4.5 because this to me with Driving Me Wild is one of the stronger moments of the album, and I just really love that build at the end when he builds to. Again, I think the song could have been shorter. And I'm sure it would have been had he further explored it or redone it again down the line. But
that's the other thing, is I think it was a little too long.
yeah, it was a bit long. The outro and the intro, if you had the intro be about 20 seconds instead of over a minute, and the outro be 30 seconds instead of a couple of minutes, you could have had a 4.5 minute song instead of a 7-minute song.
Yeah.
All right, then the last real track on the album is the song Night and Day. I think there's other tracks on it besides the drums. If I remember correctly. Oh yeah, that's just a false start there. You just left it in. That's why I was like, walk this way.
Yeah.
There is a place where I can take you. It is a magical room. There is a place where I can take you. It is a magical room. I see
Kind of gives like a little bit of a flavor of what you'd be hearing with Ian Gillan Band, with those
making me feel so
paired up little riffs in the background.
Yeah, see, if you turned all this keyboard stuff into guitars, this would be a really heavy song.
Oh yeah. Instead it gets a little Glenn Hughes here.
night and day. It's the right place. Night and day.
Wow, I didn't expect this turn.
Yeah, it really takes a left turn there.
It feels good. Night and day. There is a cave that's full of treasure. The colors dance to a sound.
Cave full of treasure, that sounds more like Rainbow lyrics.
That's full
Maybe he wrote this when he was being courted to join Rainbow.
Fucking Richie. When I read that, I was like, what?
Yeah, you know what would be a great idea? You could bring Ian Gillan into Rainbow as a vocalist.
You know, let's get John Lord on keyboards and Ian Pace on drums, and we'll call it Deep Rainbow.
Richie Blackmore's Deep Rainbow.
That'd be funny if that was his idea the whole time, was to just start a new band, recruit Deep Purple in, and then just be like, now I got all you bitches under my control.
One by one,
This is my band now. He
What's
tricks
the
them
worst
all
that can
back in.
Listen to that.
Funky, damn funky. What I'd think was funny is if this was a, like, if you told me this was a Richie Blackmore song, then I'd be peeing my pants. Be like, and he said that he didn't like funk. He didn't like that shoe shine music, and listen to it. There's shoes shining all over the place.
I guess we'll have to save it for our Rainbow episode, but I think there's enough funk going on that album that he can't. Once again, he doesn't like certain players, and I don't know. I think he makes a lot of it up.
Yeah. But anyway, back to Ian Gillan.
It's like weird, like he saves all the long songs for the end of this album. This one's not terribly long. It's only, if you take into account that false start at the beginning, it's probably about a 5 minute song. I like this little build though. I could totally see that riff in the background being in Ian Gillan. It sounds like something off of Clear Air Turbulence.
Mm-hmm.
Although I'd have to be probably a little more jazzy, a little less funky. Really pushing it there. Brings it back down. also another one probably where, you know, if they had faded out those screams or whatever, this could easily have been a 4-minute song.
Yeah.
But he gets a lot of those points across, does some great little funky interludes. Until it all falls apart.
Your favorite.
Let's see, you know, if you've ever spent any time recording in a studio with a band, you're very familiar with those sounds at the end of your recording of, you know, you listen to these playbacks and hear all these things. And, you know, I remember when we used to record with Paul, he just wouldn't stop until we stopped the tape. So if the song, he'd play for 4 or 5 more minutes, just going to everything. He'd always go into start spreading the news. And he would just keep going.
I remember that.
You'd have to cut tape, or else you just, you know, back when tape was a commodity, you'd use up all your tape. So yeah, it's okay, Paul, enough. So that was Night and Day.
Yeah, so I liked parts of it, but I'm gonna give it a 3. Just because it was good, but then it was like, again, just another song, little too long. Lost my interest halfway through when we started talking about Richie and whatever else. Obviously, I had lost interest.
I give it a 3.5. I think there was a lot. I think you could have taken that and arranged it in a way that it would have been easily a 4 for me. But yeah, like you said, a little too much dead stuff going on. And I don't mind that kind of repetitive stuff if it's building towards something, but I don't think it was really building towards anything. Fade out could have happened. It could have been a 3.5, 4-minute song. All right. The only thing we really have left is not anything to review, but something worth mentioning on the Cherkazoo and Other Stories album is the outro, which is, I think this is the first thing I ever heard, because I think you had played this for me when you first got it, but it's not even listed on I don't think it's even listed on the album.
Probably because I thought it was such a ridiculous thing that you would just love it, you know?
Yeah, and you were right.
So it's that kind of weird crap that Nate would like.
If you remember from our last episode, the song Hogwash, this is just the vocal tracks on Hogwash. So
just the backgrounds, right?
Just the background vocals. And you can sort of hear the song in the background, and then you'll hear them.
Hogwash, oh. Hogwash, oh.
You hear them goofing between takes and stuff, so it's an interesting thing to listen to. I don't think I'm going to play the whole thing, even though it's only 2 minutes long. But you can hear people clearing their throats and coughing and making farting noises. Burping. That's like me whenever I say I'm about to start recording and John lets out a belt. So I say I'm going to start recording and then I pause because I started too many episodes with burps I have to edit out. Somebody went, oh shit. So anyway, you get the idea. A little bit of singing there. I'm kind of compelled. I feel like I just need to keep listening to it, but anyway, I am gonna stop
it. I feel like it would be really funny if like somebody was like, they credited all those noises and you found that like Richie was in there and he belched and then just like left.
He just did that to ruin the take.
But instead they're like, yeah, keep it. That's what we're going for. But yeah, now I remember. I just thinking like, oh yeah, that's like, this is the kind of thing that Nate would like.
And it was funny because at the end of the album, I think it again, I don't think it's listed on the. I could go over there. I don't even know where the CD is, but I don't think it's listed on there. So you just finish the album, and all of a sudden you hear this weird sounds coming. If you know back in the day when you just leave it playing until it stopped.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck is this?
Yeah, you're like, ooh, hidden track.
Ah, the hidden track. Yeah, normally, yeah, they'd leave the 5 minutes of silence and then there'd be the hidden track, which was more annoying than anything else.
Yeah, but cool trick though. Cool
Yeah.
trick. Back in the day.
So there you have it. Cherkazoo and Other Stories complete. Now I guess we got to see where does this stack up in our
All right,
ratings. Even though
All
it's,
right, so let me see. So Cherkazoo. So well, not surprisingly, you rated it a little higher than me, about 0.67 variance. I gave it overall. My rating was a 3, and yours was a 3.67.
I see a 3.38 for you.
No, not I.
How come it's showing up as 3.38 for me?
I
And
don't
I'm
know.
showing 3.78.
Oh, there it is.
Oh,
Okay, maybe it had to update. Okay, sorry,
Okay.
3.38 and 3.78. So you still liked it slightly more than me. So a little less than half. A combined rating of 7.16. That's my update. So actually got pretty high ratings.
Yeah, not
Um,
bad. Again,
uh,
it's a difficult one to classify because it's not a like traditional album by any means.
right, but to give a little maybe context, it ranks a little below Who Do We Think We Are and Fireball, our combined ratings for that, for
Mhm.
those two albums, to kind of give an idea of where that lies in the rankings. All the other Mark II and Mark III albums, of course, were in the combined 8s for us. But
Yep.
so that seems about right.
Yeah.
But yeah, so overall, I thought it was a cool collection of songs. I liked it a lot more than just like everything. Like I liked it a lot, except War Horse. I think I liked it a lot more than I thought that I would.
Hmm.
Just because I've had this album or this collection of songs shelved for so long and hadn't heard it in so long. But I'd say overall, it's probably not something that I would, put on.
I think it's more in the realm of novelty things to listen to just if you're a fan of Ian Gillan,
Yeah.
it's a great thing to have in your collection to sit and listen to. It might not be something you listen to all the time. I happen to listen to it all the time just because of I was talking about when I used to have that job cleaning the church, and I just be around there at night listening, pushing my broom and listening to this album. But you might not listen to it that same way, but it's definitely worth a listen if you're a fan of this music at all.
Mm-hmm.
Okay, so now we got to get into the news. And first up, we already talked about it a little bit, but we are going to be attending upcoming Deep Purple shows and be reporting back on the show. Matola will be at John, I should say, will be at October. Just
Where did that come from? We got back to the early '90s, and you
Yes.
reverted to calling me Matola.
That's pretty much the only way I ever refer to you. But on the show, we try to be a little more professional. Mr. Matola will be at the October 9th show in Mohegan Sun, barring hearing back from our friend Steve Gardeau. And I will be at the October 18th show in Rosemont. If you're going to be at one of those shows, come say hi. Well, if you're going to be at the Illinois show, say hi. We kind of botched this and should have mentioned the other one earlier, but we did just find out. The next thing is Ultimate Guitar. Well, I should say HighwayStar.com reported this story about Michael Schenker. There's a great picture of him there. And the title of it was, "When Was He Asked?" So it was a quote from an interview where Michael Schenker talks about how he was offered all of these opportunities to play with bands. He says, "I didn't go with Deep Purple. I didn't go with Ozzy Osbourne. I didn't go with Phil Lynott or Lemmy's Motorhead. You name them. They all asked me to join, but I did not think I was the right person because there was a reason why I didn't join the Scorpions. There was a reason why I left UFO." And Highway Star's article was said, well, when was he asked? Like, this is news to us as the Deep Purple font of knowledge on the internet. We weren't familiar with this. And they said the best theory they can have is that his list was on a list of acceptable replacements for Blackmore that was supplied to the band by the Japanese promoters for the 93 tour.
Mm-hmm.
So it might have been said, like, he might have been mentioned in passing once, but I guess the idea that he was asked to join Deep Purple was maybe pushing it a little bit. So that was before they went with Joe Satriani, of course. So
Mm-hmm.
interesting article there. I'll put the link in the show notes. And then finally, an interview with Glenn Hughes, an anti-hero. Really good interview. I'd recommend checking it out. He talks about, one of the things he talks about is about, would you, how he's doing this tour where he goes around and does all the Deep Purple songs. Would he consider doing the same thing with trapeze songs? And Glenn Hughes says, I'd love to. I'm getting communications from promoters about that. I would love to do that. It would be a bit bigger in America, and I could find people who adore trapeze, like Billy Gibbons, who's a huge trapeze fan. I did not know that. So I don't think I'd have a problem finding someone to play it with. But I'm glad you mentioned that band, because that's where it started for me and where I found my legs. I've been doing this for 50 years now, and it's never going to really stop for me, because I really love what I do, and I love going back to the people that follow my music. So interesting idea. I would
Yeah.
definitely see him performing trapeze.
You know, on a Glenn Hughes related note too, because the thing said, the image you pulled up said the Dead Daisies, which I am not too familiar with, but I saw a
Oh yeah, we
Dead
talked about that in a previous episode. He just joined the Dead Daisies, and yeah, it's
Right.
funny they say Glenn Hughes of the Dead Daisies. I'm like, yeah, for like what, 5 weeks? It's funny that of all the things he's done, they like clarify that he's from the Dead Daisies. Like that's gonna help anybody.
But it's but it's really funny because they would just like listen to, you know, it was like a Facebook article like new song drops with Glenn Hughes and the Dead Daisies, and of course the comment section blew up, and they were just like, they're nothing without John Corabi, and like, this is blasphemy, and they're just like, oh, another one of Glenn Hughes's failed projects, you know. It's like, oh, well, he's got his wig looks really good right now, and all this other stupid bullshit, and it's just
Yeah.
like, obviously people that
A lot of people with good attitudes, huh?
well, it's just like I can't take that stuff because first of all, number one, it's just like I think that like he's had no failed projects. He's had a lot of different projects. I mean, look at all the guys that do these one-off projects, like all that HTP and Black Country Communion and everything else that he did. Those weren't failed. Like he didn't do those and expect to go out and do something big with them. Like he's doing them when he has time. Like that's what a lot of musicians do now.
Right.
Is they join a lot of different bands. Like look at what's his name, George Lynch. He's in like 20 bands.
Yeah, and Steve Morris, for example, he's in does a bunch of different stuff.
Yeah.
I mean, you're just doing stuff that you love to do. Like Glenn Hughes doesn't. I mean, if he wanted to retire, he could retire. He's doing stuff that he finds some sort of reward in. But he has a lot of all these people with bad attitudes. Like, come on, like. It's, they're nothing without this and that. Like, just accept they're not in the band anymore. They're doing something different. Like, it's not, maybe they'll go back one day, but I don't think there's like a ton of hard feelings or animosity. And I don't know anything about this band, so forgive me, but just accept the fact that they're trying something different. And I guess that's why anytime there's any sort of lineup change, I think they should just abandon that band name and start a new band name, because otherwise people always will compare. Oh, it'll never be the same as it was before. You know, people I'm sure were pissing and moaning about Zakk Wylde joining Ozzy whenever he did. And I wasn't, aware enough in the scene to know what people were complaining about. Oh, we'll never be able to replace Jakey Lee or whatever. And then, 20 years later, he's still playing with Ozzy. Like, clearly it's going okay. He's had tons of success. Like, and then all of a sudden, oh, it's okay now. Just get over it.
Yeah, it's ridiculous.
That sort of stuff is everywhere. And again, the only way you'd be happy is if you had a new band name for every single tiny lineup change, and you can't do that because people want some sort of brand recognition. That's why Deep Purple kept the Deep Purple name, even though they sounded different with every lineup change. Keep changing the name it's not a financially smart thing to do.
Nope.
So anyway, this week in Purple history, October 14th through October 20th is when this episode will come out. And on October 16th, 1968, Deep Purple played, where is it? Here we go. They played their first U.S. show opening for Cream during their farewell tour. So it was the Cream farewell tour. They played on the 16th. And then on this concert poster I'm showing, if you're watching the video, is from the 18th and 19th.
Where were they?
They were playing, at the Fabulous Forum. Deep Purple with Cream. Imagine that.
Even though it was Mark 1, I would have loved to have seen that.
Well, you know what? It's funny you should say that because we can see it. So there's a video of the show on the 18th, the show that I showed the poster for. So this would have been 2 days later, but close enough. It's a terrible video, but you get the so apparently this weird format video was recorded at the time, and it was in the Deep Purple Appreciation Society archives for years before they could finally find a machine that would play it. So here's the audio is actually quite good. You see John Lord there on the organ. Nikki singing background vocals to Kentucky Woman.
Yeah, actually the audio and the video definitely don't match up.
No, the video is terrible. It's probably damaged by heat. So there's Rod Evans right there. You can see Ian Pace on the drums. And then if we get a little later in the video, you do see that's Rod Evans just sitting on the stage being all mopey. And then there's some Richie. Here we go. Playing the old Gibson hollow body. Bring that neck. So I'll put the link to the show notes in this, but it's about 50-minute long video of their opening act for Cream.
Wow.
And you can find audio recordings of this too, and honestly, probably better off just listening to the audio, but there's something there in the video if you want to just get a little glimpse of how they looked. And it looks like, I think Richie wore that same shirt at the concerto. There you go, little Deep Purple history for you there. Then we have in history as well, these are some photos that they just have some kind of watermarked photos on this website. So on this day, October 16th, 1975, 7 years later, the Butterfly Ball is performed live at the Royal Albert Hall. And there's some photos from the performance. I'm going to put a link to the show notes. This great photographer took these photos. So here's the watermarked photos. And they are available for purchase on his site, hence the watermarks. But there's some great photos. I'm actually thinking of printing out a few and getting a few purchased, depending on how they are, because they're beautiful photos. There's Ian Gillan with Roger Glover playing the acoustic guitar. There's the whole group. You see Coverdale over on the left.
Oh, nice.
Johnny Gustafson in the middle. Glenn Hughes. Does Glenn Hughes have like a camel toe in the picture? What's going on there?
His pants are like pulled up to his chest.
They're very tight.
What the hell?
He's busting out.
Wow.
Then Tony Ashton's the guy right with his arm around Glenn Hughes, smoking a cigarette. We've got John Lawton, Roger Glover. I think that's Al Matthews in the background. It's hard to tell everybody. Got a picture of Glenn Hughes there belting out, Get Ready. Coverdale on stage. Can you imagine being at this show? Oh,
wow.
Is Ian Gillan? That's his first performance since he left Deep Purple.
Whoa, he's looking a little chunky and short hair there.
He cut the hair.
Yeah, he looks kind of like a regular dude.
Looking healthy. Tony Ashton's losing his mind. John Gustafson belting out, Watch Out for the Bat. We've got Roger Glover on acoustic guitar. John Lord all hovering in the smoke with his organ.
Nice.
So really great stuff. Great stuff from the Butterfly Ball there. And then on October 14th, 1991, Gillan releases the Toolbox album. I always remember seeing this one when it first came out at the HMV up in Boston.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, I think I picked it up eventually, but probably a few years later. So some really big dates in Deep Purple history. It's probably worth mentioning. We've got our Butterfly Ball Spectacular is looming. It's going to pretty much dominate the month of November.
Oh boy,
we got a lot to dive into with that. It's going to be the 45th anniversary of the Butterfly Ball album being released. So a lot of stuff to cover.
Yeah, dang.
Yeah, imagine that. So anyway, I think we're wrapping up another episode of the Deep Purple Podcast, closing out our Cherkazoo Spectacular. Next week, we'll be diving in. What are we doing next week? Richie Blackmore's Rainbow. Never heard of it.
Who? Richie who?
Never heard of it. So we'll have to listen to that for the first time and see how it goes.
Hmm.
Can't wait. We'll be dragons and gypsies and warlocks galore.
It's been a while since I heard the first album, so that'll be exciting. I can't wait.
I'm looking forward to it. So until then, so long, everybody.
Hasta la vista.
Thank you for listening to the Deep Purple Podcast. If you like what you hear and would like more episodes in the future, please donate on Patreon to support the show. You can also give us a rating on iTunes to help new people discover the show. You can follow us on YouTube, Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook for show updates. See deeppurplepodcast.com for more details. Thank you for listening.